Hi everyone, welcome back to the Patti Martin Real Estate Group YouTube channel. We have a very exciting and special guest here today. Her name is Rowena List. She's a professional organizer, and we're going to be talking about how we can efficiently downsize our homes. Rowena, how are you?
I'm great, thank you. Thanks, Adam, for having me on your Zoom.
You're very welcome. Before we get started into our questions here, why don't you let our audience know a little bit about you and how you started up gettingittogether.ca?
Oh, great. Yeah, well, I started several years ago, too long to even mention probably, uh, by just helping some friends. I was helping them downsize, get organized, and thoroughly enjoyed it. And I thought, well, what the heck? I should probably just do this as a business because I've always
Nice.
been really organized. And so I just started off kind of in a backwards way. I started by creating a CD and giving all kinds of tips and helpful ideas and so forth. And then, I mean, we're going back a long time, Adam. Then people said, well, do you have a website? And those were sort of new back then. So then I got together and got a website and created my business and my business plan. And here we are several decades later, still helping people to downsize, clear the clutter, and stay clutter free.
Nice.
Clear the clutter. I love it.
Nice. So we're doing these podcasts in a sort of series to help people figure out how they're going to help their kids. And sometimes it might mean selling their existing home and downsizing themselves so that they can help out financially with their children. So, but we do hear, as people prepare to sell or think about selling, they're hanging on to everything that's in their house. So we want to know what's the most common emotional roadblock people face when downsizing or decluttering.
I'd say the most common one, Patty, is the fact that people will say, I paid $1,000 for this couch and, you want to give it away for free or you want to try and sell it for $50. And I've had it for, 30, 40 years, but still I spent $1,000 on it. So that can become a real roadblock is when people feel, and it's true, their possessions are far more valuable to them and it costs them their hard-earned money. But when it comes time to letting go and releasing, you have to let go of the outcome of what you think you might get for that item. Especially in this day and age where so many people are downsizing and there's just inventory galore out there that people can get their hands on.
Oh, Rowena, there's so many times we go into a house and people say, and I sit them down and I say, okay, I just want to break it to you. Your kids don't want any of it. And I mean, none, because they're like, we're going to IKEA.
Yeah.
Like, we don't want any of it. And it's a hard, because we all, I'm old enough to have benefited from parental, passed downs, and we welcome them, but my generation, but nowadays it's so different. So yeah, that would be difficult for sure.
People don't have the space.
Just to add on to that, yeah.
Sorry?
Well, I was just going to say, people don't
Go ahead,
have
Rowena.
the space to put, these big oversized couches or big buffet hutches and things like that. And they don't have the items to store in there. They're not using the fine china, the crystal, the silver. So, it's just a totally different lifestyle now.
Yeah.
Do you think that a lot of the challenges that you deal with people you're helping downsize and declutter is just being emotionally prepared to let things go? Like, how do you help people with that mindset shift to say, I no longer need this, it's time to move on? Like, how do you work people through that?
Well, I do have my coaching certification, and so I then would have to do some coaching, some counseling, a lot of compassion work, and just sit with them and say, this, it's unrealistic. This can't all be moved to the next location. And so it has to be done with a very gentle touch and in baby steps too, because when people are downsizing, especially if they've been in their home for 40 or 50 years and now they're maybe going into a care facility or a smaller condo or something like that, they know that that's their next and probably last move. And so it's about peeling back an onion. So we do it layers at a time, and we start with the real easy stuff first. And then they go, oh, well, okay, that was pretty easy, getting rid of old paperwork or, books that are outdated, textbooks, things like that. Or maybe some of their kids' old belongings that their kids have said, look, mom and dad, we do not want those things. You can pass them on. So we start that way,
Yeah.
and then we just gradually get to the tougher stuff. And most times when people have contacted me, they're ready to move forward, unless it's been a situation where, it's a health concern or something like that, where they don't really want to leave their home, but they know they have to. And so then I just go in nice and gently and step by step, big steps, and then we work at it.
Yeah, it is a really fine balancing act, because I always tell people I'm going to go kicking and screaming from my house, so you don't need to feel bad.
Yeah.
and nobody's telling me what I'm getting rid of until I'm ready. But there is that other part where we have people that come to terms with, they want to help support their kids, so they want to downsize, and you're right, they can't take it all with them. And what I've found is sometimes they'll say later, oh, I feel so good. Right? I feel so relieved that it's all dealt with. So it's kind of like this monkey on their back for a long time. And it's just a whoosh. But what about stuff that they feel guilty about giving away? Like grandma's finest piece of china, these are tough things.
These are tough things, Patti. And this is when I really have to sit down and say, you enjoyed them, you loved them, let's pass them on with love. And the good thing about my job is that quite often I have families in need, newcomers that are needing things. And they are so grateful for grandma's fine china. They like to use that fine china on a regular basis.
Okay, cool.
Or they're grateful for the eclectic style of couch and lamps and things like that. And so when my clients know that these items are going to somebody that is less fortunate, that it's going to help somebody else out, they feel a lot more sense of relief by releasing them and letting them go.
Yeah, it's amazing to know that not everything is just going to the landfill. I didn't know that we kind of upcycle these items and then donate them to different families. That actually right there is a huge relief on me, because I look at my parents' house and I see a whole bunch of things in the house that I certainly don't want, but they're an amazing quality.
Yeah.
So just to know the fact that they're going to be moving on and having that kind of second wind at life, that's unbelievable.
Yeah, well, I don't send anything to the landfill. Cool. So I
okay, that's really good to know.
Yeah, it's, I work really, really diligently to find a source and a home. And, it takes a little bit of sleuthing, but eventually I can find a home for, I found it for pianos and all kinds of things over the years. Parrots, even. That was a tough one to find a home for parrots. But I have found a home for all kinds of things. You cannot just let your parrot run free and let it go out the front door. It's not going to survive.
No.
We've had a good run, but see you later.
Yeah, well, because parrots live 150 years, so they are going to outlive all of their owners. So.
Oh my God. That's awesome. Yeah. What about when couples disagree on what's going and what's not? Because there's oftentimes one of the partners, I find, is more of a collector than another.
Yes,
so
I know that can be a bit challenging. I generally work with one person at a time. So if I'm working with a couple, I might get the fellow to be working on something, say for an example, in his tool shed or in his home office or his, rec room or something like that. And I'll set him up with a project there. And then I'll be working with the lady to work on things. So yeah, it can be a bit of, marriage counseling at times. But again, generally people know that they need to, if their goal of helping their children is massive and really big and they really believe that, then they're motivated. They're motivated.
Right.
Where they're maybe not as motivated if they have to go into a care facility or into a really small condo or something like that because of health.
Yeah.
But their grown children will often say to them, "Look, Mom and Dad, we don't want to be spending our spare time, our weekends, our evenings, our holidays coming over here and downsizing your home. Please work with Rowena and get this job done." Because that's the worst thing you can do is leave it for your kids to do.
Yeah, Rowena, because there is this, I always tell people, you can stay in your house as long as you want, but there does come a point where you no longer have choice.
Yeah.
And I tell them, I have been witness to someone's been moved to an intermediate care or some kind of independent living that's a group living, and the dumpster is in the driveway. And that's where your stuff is going. So you can either choose, or that can be your route. These are realities. We see it all the time. So I try to remember that for myself as I age too. But yeah, it's tough.
It is tough.
Rowena, I remember you mentioned earlier that you try to take care of the easy items first and try to get rid of those items. Aside from deciding what's an easy item, how do you recommend or walk families through what rooms to start with first, just to get going before you get into those more difficult items? Is there a specific order that you like to work in?
Well, I usually work in the area that's bugging the person the most, but quite often it's the kitchen, because people spend a lot of time in their kitchen. And they've accumulated, melon ballers and pineapple slicers and all kinds of things over the years that they haven't used. And so then they have a good chuckle and go, "Oh yeah, I had the best of intentions to always make my melon balls for the fruit salad." And what do? You take a melon, you chop it up and you toss it in the bowl. So, it's pretty easy to work through the kitchen. And because people over the years have changed the way that they cook or the volume of food that they cook as they get older, so then they go, "Oh yeah, of course, I am not making waffles anymore. I used to make those for my kids every Sunday morning, and I'm not doing that anymore. So let's get rid of the waffle. Let's send it on with love to somebody else. It's gonna, it's got a young family." Or they might have big, huge pots and pans and saucepans and things like that they say, "No, I can't even lift them. They're too heavy for me to even lift when it's full of water. So let's pass those on." And so the kitchen seems to be a fairly easy place to get started, and they can see some results.
I'm curious, I'm adding a question here, but from start to finish, if someone's motivated, what kind of timeline would it take to downsize them or
it all depends how much stuff is in the home, Patti, because, the average home has over 350,000 things in it. That's the average home, but a lot of places have way more than 350,000.
We know some of those places.
Yes.
We have seen some of those places.
Yes. Yeah. So I can only speak.
Wow, you quantified it to a number. That's awesome.
I know. I've been in and started counting. No. So the awesome. Thing is that, if the home, let's take it for an example. I worked on a place where the home was vacated. The couple had moved out already, but had left everything in the home that they couldn't move to their next location. And it was a 2-story home, 2 kitchens, 5 bathrooms and bedrooms and everything else, and 3 storage sheds. And I worked on that for 2 weeks solid, 2 weeks solid to empty that house. Yeah. So things do take longer.
That's still pretty fast.
Oh,
Pretty
yeah.
good,
I work very quickly. Even with my clients, I
Because
work
you're efficient.
very quickly because I am efficient and I've done it for a long time. If somebody says to me, well, the other day I worked on a place that they wanted to put it on the market over this past weekend, and 2 full days I had everything out that needed to go out in order for it to be ready to go on the market. There was still lots of items in the cupboards and, hidden in places. They weren't ready to move that. They were just ready to put it on the market, and then they will chip away at things, and I'll go back and we'll, do some more clearing. But 2 full days, and we got it so that it was ready to have the photos taken. So it's quick if you want it to be quick. But if you don't, then we take the time. But that's sort of like pulling a Band-Aid off really slowly and painfully.
Yeah.
Amazing. Rowena, that's a lot of information on helping our clients get prepared to downsize. I know that we're going to post your information in the description of all these posts, but if anybody wants to get in touch with you or even just look you up online, how do they find you?
Yeah, there's 2 ways. They can give me a call because I do provide free consultations over the phone to discuss their individual needs. And that's at 604-520-9550. Or my website is gettingittogether.ca.
Getting it together, that's good.
Fantastic. We'll be sure to share your name and contact information with everybody. And if anybody wants Rowena's contact information, you can always get in touch with us.
Yeah.
And then we'll put you in touch with Rowena.
Thanks,
Fantastic.
Rowena. This has been very helpful.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Oh, pleasure.
Thank you.
Happy to help out.